we're talking about threat hunting, which is kind of a buzzwordy security term, but really what it means is mapping attackers within your quote unquote network. Obviously, networks aren't really as they were in the past, where we had like a firewalled, set of infrastructure in a data center somewhere. This has been distributed all over the cloud now. So we do things like Beyond Corp, and we have zero trust models, and it's just a very different scheme that we have today. And actually, that even makes it a greater requirement to do things like threat hunting, because we need to be able to tie together all of this different data in some way. So when we think about threat hunting, the first sort of technique that I think of is continuous monitoring. So this is very proactive. This is looking for known sort of attacker behaviors based on things maybe like the MITRE ATT&CK framework, maybe it's compliance-based models like CIS or PCI or HIPAA, things like that. And we're looking for behaviors such as, a malicious command was executed, and malicious obviously is very subjective, but because Panther uses Python, you can define that however you want. Or we look at indicator-based detections, like we saw hits on known bad IPs that maybe we saw in the past, or traffic to known bad domains that we may have also seen in the past. And then complementary to this is the reactive side. So this is maybe responding to an alert from our detections and starting to query around and see, okay, what did this attacker do? And this could be revealing new things that we didn't previously know about. So this is doing ad hoc searches across our data warehouse, across all of our different types of data, and then looking for matches on these indicators. And then this helps us build our story. So us as defenders, we want to know what was the root cause, what is the entire scope of this attack, and what all the related activity that may have been exploited or taken advantage of within this attack. And then another approach, if you're not triaging an alert, could be potentially taking the output of some type of report from the intelligence community or from information exchanges, maybe with you and other security teams. This was very common in my past. One security team would see an attack from a set of indicators, we would share it with other teams, and then we would query our data to see, okay, did we have a hit? So, that's a really common, and it can be very successful as well. But there's a lot of challenges with this. So for one, I mentioned this before at the beginning, all of our logs are in different formats generally. They have different keys, different values, like everything is very sort of scattered, and we need to bring order to it. And then the second piece is around extracting these helpful indicators to enable us to do these searches quickly. So because there's so much data, we have to just take a completely new game plan on how we index, store, and search through it, and correlate all these events together as well. So, we can take indicators like IPs, and we can say, okay, we need to say as a defender, I need to see everything related to this IP across all of my data. And then another challenge is, how do we align all the different times of data as well? Because you can have some sources in UTC, some sources in local time, and we need to have a strategy there. And then on the scale side, it's really just how do we keep things under control as the data grows? So again, this is going back to the separation of storage and compute, but also it goes back to something that is fairly unique to Panther, which is that we actually segment the data off in a couple of different ways. So we have our main logs that have been fed through the system, but then we also have the subset of that which match our rules. So as you can start to think about, you could have informational rules like logins that are very generic, that you don't send alerts on, but you can kind of siphon that data off to when you need to search for it. And this is really going to help in an incident to where you don't have to just go through your petabytes of log data to look for your login events. You already have it segmented somewhere else. It's this idea of creating fact tables. And again, this is a very common thing in business intelligence that we're now starting to apply towards security. So it's going to make our lives as incident responders a lot better. And then on the scale side, because we're doing, again, this separation between storage and compute, we don't really have to worry about like hot data versus cold data, things like that. And we can obviously start to like life cycle things out if needed, or if we hit like some insane scale, we can start to think about these things. But it's not a fundamental problem when you separate them out. And then finally, probably the biggest one here is the operational burden associated with the data, right? Where we as security practitioners want to focus on doing detection and keeping attackers out of our network. We don't want to have to worry about scaling strategies and keeping systems online. So a big thing for us is that we built Panther fully serverless. So the operational overhead is really just coming down to configurations and CloudFormation deployments. And honestly, we try to abstract as much of it away as possible and really, again, just have the security teams focus on security and not on